Well, over the weekend, we watched a U.S. citizen get shot and killed in Minneapolis during an immigration enforcement operation. The reason the story has exploded isn't just because it's tragic, of course. It is anytime there's a loss of life. It's exploded because the official story immediately ran into a wall of video evidence. And then, of course, it exploded because politicians and celebrities and everyone else jumped online and social media and started to spin the story to fit their narrative. People were even fundraising off of this. Of course, that's how this usually works, right? To fit their own agenda. The man who was killed was a man by the name of Alex Pretty. He was a 37-year-old ICU nurse, who also worked with veterans, helping veterans. And according to reports, he was legally allowed to carry a firearm. He was registered, followed the letter of the law. But oddly, the widely shared footage doesn't show him holding a gun at the exact moment he's confronted. That's exactly what, of course, sparked a lot of this outrage. The gun appears to go off in the hands of a federal agent as he's carrying the gun across the street. Again, we need a full investigation before we can parse any of this. That's when, of course, another agent then opened fire, killing Alex. Now, even the NRA is calling for a full investigation, pushing back on this idea that lawful gun ownership somehow makes you a legitimate target because you carry a weapon. Now you are a legitimate target.
Which is exactly what Kash Patel said on Fox News over the weekend. My jaw hit the floor. He says, well, you shouldn't bring up a gun to a protest. You are allowed to do that. And Minnesota has open carry laws. This was a legal firearm. I couldn't believe it, that this is a Trump administration official saying that you become a target for carrying a legal weapon. This is America. That's not how it works. Someone needs to tell him that.
The whole purpose is to weaponize against the tyrannical government. I mean, that's like the whole reason for the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So President Trump also said he shouldn't have been carrying such a powerful gun, which 9mm? I mean, does he want him to carry an air rifle? Like a Red Ryder BB gun? Would that have been okay, I guess? Like, you'll shoot your eye out.
I won't touch the 9mm. I'm afraid of it. I only do the 22s.
She only shoots 22s. But even the NRA called that kind of rhetoric dangerous and wrong. Larry Johnson is a former CIA agent, counterterrorism official, and also an NRA-certified firearms instructor who teaches gun safety and training every weekend. There he is. He just wrote a piece titled U.S. Border Patrol is Out of Control on his website, Sonar 21. Let me just read a little bit of it here. He says, as a certified firearms instructor, I have enough experience to know when law enforcement is out of line and engaging in a criminal conduct. Based on the video evidence I have seen, the shooting of Alex Pretty by a group of Homeland Security law enforcement officers was unjustified and most likely was caused in part by inadequate training. Well, we're going to talk more about that in just a second. You saw Larry there a second ago. He's here, and we wanted to bring him on for his analysis. Larry, great to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me. And let me be clear. I'm not here on behalf of the NRA. I'm just, I'm talking on my, so I don't represent them, and I can't say according to the NRA this is, but it's based upon my experience. I've trained over 2,000 people over the course of the years. I've trained in terms of what's called defensive pistol, concealed carry, how to protect yourself in the home, how to protect yourself outside the home. I've trained law enforcement officials, retired, a couple active, and military, former military. So it's not I'm just dealing with people who've never had experience with guns.
Now, before we get into the inadequate training piece, because that to me is a huge part of this story, and I think what happened in Minneapolis was really a microcosm of a larger problem that Tom Homan is now facing, which is inadequate training. Well, I want to put that on the back burner for just a second. On the front burner, though, I want to talk this guy, Alex. And based on your experience, did he do anything wrong? He's there. No,
unjustified. This shooting is completely unjustified. It's manslaughter by police. We know that because in one part of the video, it's the one that was taken from the sidewalk side. If you slow it down, you can see that he had what's called an inside the waistband holster. And the holster was placed above his right butt cheek. You can see one of the police grab the gun. It was a SIG 320. Now, the SIG 320 has a bad reputation for going off. We don't know if this was one of those, but you can see the firearm is pulled. Now, what we can't tell is whether in pulling that firearm, did it go off, or did the police the law enforcement officer, did he holler, gun, gun, gun? Either way, if he's hollering gun, 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 or they hear a shot, then the other officers could think at that point, oh my God, we're under attack, and they shoot the guy on the ground. Now, again, you're allowed to kill somebody, to take their life, if they pose an imminent threat of killing you or causing severe bodily harm. That's the standard, really across the United States. They weren't in that situation because this guy had not been out attacking police. He hadn't been punching anybody. In fact, he intervened to try to get the police to stop beating. They assaulted that woman. That woman had not done anything. It'd be one thing if she had thrown a bottle of frozen water at him or a rock or something. She didn't do that. Then they come over and physically assault her. So that's assault number one. He steps in trying to get her out of the way, and then they attack him with pepper spray. They put him on the ground. If he had drawn his gun, then, yeah, he would have been a legitimate target. Now, you could also make the case he had a good reason to draw the gun, but when you hear the Trump administration advancing this lie that somebody is not legally allowed to carry a concealed weapon in public, that's the Second Amendment, folks. And
why do you think,
as you said, Natalie, earlier,
why do you think the dog pile begins when he has not reached for his gun? They have no assumption that he has a gun at this point. It's very unclear why so many need to be on him just for pushing a pepper sprayed victim out of the way.
Yeah, well, it's mob violence by police. I mean, when a mob starts acting, they're not acting with rational thought. Then this goes back to the heart of training. You know, it's one thing if somebody, if this guy Alex Pratt, if he was throwing punches and had hit an officer, that was saying, if the officer simply come out, sir, we need you to move away, and he then punched him, then you would have reason for the police to come over and drop him and say, okay, you've assaulted an officer, we're taking you into custody. But there had been no assault by Pratt at this point, none. And neither the woman, she hadn't assaulted anybody. And so this goes to the training. Yeah. Because these officers, they should have known there was no legal, justifiable reason to put hands on these people. The only reason they put hands on them was because they could. They're just showing them we're big enough, we're bad enough, we're tough enough. Look, I'm supportive of law enforcement, but this is outside the bounds. This is blatant murder by federal officials.
So let's talk about this inadequate training. So I just spoke to a source on the Border Patrol side, and who said, Clayton, this is at the heart of the problem, is that you had 6,000 Border Patrol agents, then you've increased it to 10,000. Trump administration wants to push it to 10,000 or 20,000. It takes at least 3 years minimum to be even in the ballpark of being out on the street. Most of these stations, whether you're in Omaha, Nebraska, or Des Moines, Iowa, have about 100 Border Patrol agents at these stations. Out of those 100, 10 of them, 10% are out in the field. That's it. Mm-hmm. The rest of them are like lawyers, and they're doing casework inside of the office. Really, it should be the opposite. It should be 80% should be out in the field.
Right.
And most of these people have almost no training whatsoever. They've been on the job for a minimal amount of time. They don't have any apprehension skills where they've had 3 years of actually apprehending people. And this is at the heart of the problem here. You have all of these people around them throwing bottles and other things like involved in it. It's just it's a recipe for disaster.
Well, on top of that, it is the difference between the training that a customs border officer is going to go through is different from what law enforcement, police, whether we're talking, local city, county, state, and within that is attention paid to the Constitution. So I guarantee you that these Border Patrol officers are not getting a week lesson about the constitutional protections because they're being told you're dealing with illegals. They don't have constitutional rights.
Right, and then they're out there dealing with illegals, and then suddenly you get like organized leftist groups who are showing up. So like their job, I mean, let's be clear, right? Their job is to go after illegal immigrants. And they're in the heart of it. They're in the heart of it, going after these Somalis. And I know one source I spoke to today made 5 arrests today. And of those 5 arrests, they all had criminal records. They're all on welfare. And these are like violent criminals that they were rounding up. So you're out, that's your job. And then on top of it, you've got these like leftist groups who are throwing bottles at you and trying to get in your way.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm not trying to suggest, because I support getting rid of the flood of illegal migrants that have come into the country. But you do it according to the law.
Yeah.
And one of the things that most law enforcement officers get is instruction on how to de-escalate. Now, I'll be willing to bet you, when they go through and vet a lot of these new customs officers or Border Patrol officials, I bet you'll find that there are some former police who were removed from law enforcement jobs in the state or county because of past abuse. And because you find a lot, there's a great channel called the Civil Rights Attorney, guy out of West Virginia.
He's going to be on next, actually, after you.
Is he?
Yes. He's going to be joining us here in a few minutes after you.
So he's got story after story showing where law enforcement officials really cross the boundary and do not respect the constitutional rights. And I guarantee you, these customs and border officials, they're not getting that because they're being told you're basically dealing with illegals. In fact, part of the training course that was shorted, or they cut the training in half, that training course was learning to speak Spanish. So they've now ruled out that you may not even be able to communicate. But it also this is a failure of leadership, because it's one thing, you've got an officer acting inappropriately, but they're being told to do that. And the leadership at the top needs to make it clear, you're not out here to see who you can beat up, who you can push, who you can put hands on. We're going to follow the law. And in fact, what we've heard is they're going to allow them to start entering homes without a warrant. Violation of the Constitution, clear violation. And yet the fact that you got people in leadership that are willing to entertain that, I said,
there's no Constitution anymore.
Accountable. Yeah,
but it does seem like the Trump administration has blinked on this one in a way they did not around the Renee Good shooting, where her car was a possible threat and out there. A good point in the chat, someone says conceal carry is the way to go in this one, because you are going to a situation with law enforcement. You don't want to look like an overt threat. You do want to be protected. So anyone who knows anything about gun rights would probably condone that, don't you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, what the Trump administration has done now is further enraged a group that in the past were supporting Trump.
The gun owners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Gun owners like me, all of my students. I guarantee you, most of my students, if you surveyed them, they'd be saying this is outrageous. Just to be able to say, well, he had a gun. Yeah, but was he reaching for it? No. Was he brandishing it? Brandishing means you got it out, you're waving it around. No. Then you don't have a right to shoot him. That's the kind of thing you think somebody who's against gun rights would do. Just to say, you got a gun, you're guilty because you have a gun. Wait a second. That's why we got the Second Amendment, to protect us against this kind of government overreach.
Is there any threat that this might change the Second Amendment?
They're pushing. They're already pushing, Larry. You already know they're pushing. They're pushing for different magazine restrictions, all sorts of stuff. They're already out there pushing for it.
Yeah. What do you do when the Republicans who are supposed to support this issue are now turning around and blaming the victim for following and abiding by the Constitution? Right. Now, look, this kid is younger than my son. So if he'd come to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to go out and protest," I'd say, I would have told him, keep the gun at home, just to avoid the possibility of problem, because you want to keep it peaceful. But if you're going to carry, you still have the right to carry. It's not prohibited. And I said, there are other prohibitions. I can't take it into the post office. I can't take it into an elementary, middle school, high school, or college. I can't take it to a public sporting event. So there are a variety, even with the Second Amendment, there are a number of areas in different states defined where you can and cannot carry a firearm. This guy was on the public streets. There were no restrictions.
I just want to play this real quick, Larry, before we let you go here, which is you mentioned the type of firearm this is, this 9mm.
Yeah.
I own a 365 X Macro. A Sig Sauer. I love it.
Yeah.
This is a Sig. This one though has some different problems. I just want to play this and show how there's all sorts of problems with it just going off randomly. So if this law enforcement guy is carrying the gun and it just goes off in his hand, watch this.
Put some input into the slide somewhere. Will it go off again? Will it release? Let's see. That's 3 in a row. Let me take the screw out.
So Larry, what he's showing here, of course, is that just by putting pressure on the top allows this to go off.
Yeah, that's the Sig Sauer 320.
It's a known issue.
It's what's called it's striker fired. So you notice on the back it didn't have a hammer.
Right.
You know, you can see a hammer. You can cock it and decock it. Didn't have a hammer. The firing pin, it's internal, but there have been reports of those going off on their own, and it's possible that this guy, I'm not sure what year it was, his year of that firearm that was owned by Alex, but when the officer grabs it and pulls it out, if in that action of pulling, a round went off, and everyone heard the gunshot, then everyone think, oh my God, we're being shot at, and they start shooting. Now, Again, you're supposed to be able to identify the threat. Just because you hear something doesn't mean you can pull your gun out and just start shooting randomly. But as we talked about earlier, there were 5 people on top of him. For God's sake, he wasn't a World Wrestling Federation champion on the ground there. And if those 5 guys were not properly instructed just how to get control of a man's arm and wrist, I mean, there are some techniques, and it appears that none of them are actually properly instructed in that.
Right. Again, the training. Again, I come back to the training. I mean, Tom Holman, these guys have a real big problem on their hands. I don't want this to get lost in the story. I just really feel like that this is a microcosm of a larger problem right now.
Can I just say, the chat room is very obsessed with the fact that he didn't have ID and that the Second Amendment requires ID. In this moment, is that knowable? Can you respond to that?
Okay, so did you see the police officer walk up to him and say, Mr., who are you? And he could have said, well, I refuse to identify myself, but that didn't happen.
No.
Did you see the police say, where's your ID? They didn't ask for that. So, hey, chat room, you're wrong. If he was asked for an ID and failed to produce it, then even then, and you'll talk to the lawyer in a little bit, and he'll explain the actual law on that, the constitutional. If you are not seen committing a crime or suspected of committing a crime, no law enforcement officer in the United States has a right to ask you for your ID. None of your damn business.
Well, they didn't even give him the chance to let him know that he was armed. Yeah. All of this stuff through conversation could have been settled.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. So if they had asked for his ID, and he could say, why? What have I done? And they could say, well, you are obstructing an investigation. Okay, then that could be a borderline, but they could still make the case that he should produce his ID. But again, he wasn't given the chance to do that. He was assaulted because he was trying to help defend a woman who had been assaulted.
Yeah.
And then he gets shot, and it is at a minimum, it's manslaughter.
A lot of times, I wonder if it matters. I'm just thinking. I carry a digital. I have the app. We have a driver's license on the app, and so maybe he didn't have it on him, but now he's dead. He can't open his phone. That may have counted. We don't know, right? Yeah. So that feels like nitpicking in order to justify something that you want a means to an end. This ID
completely unjustified, because they didn't come up to him at any point and say, "Hey, can you produce your ID?" They didn't give him a chance. Yeah. They assaulted him, beat him down, and then shot him.
Now, one more question? Are you allowed to help someone who's been pepper sprayed by the cops? That's all. It seems like he did.
From a human standpoint, yes. Just humanity.
Right.
Humanity.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to speak to John Bryan next, the civil rights lawyer, about all of this. But it was great to have your perspective as an NRA gun trainer and CIA agent on the civil rights of this. And again, it's amazing to see Republicans coming out against the Second Amendment and for coming into your home and searching and seizing your home, or coming into your house, which is exactly one of the grievances in the frickin' Declaration of Independence, for crying out loud. Right. Not having people allowed to come into your home. This is exactly why we fought, as you point out in your piece, fought the British on all of this.
Good to see you, Larry. Thank you so much.
I had 28 ancestors that fought him for it. So, Natali, Clayton, always a pleasure.
Great to see you. David, go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah, I was just trying to point out, like, it doesn't help, with these guys when you have the Trump administration pretty much tweeting, "We have your back. You guys are pretty much above the law."
Yeah. That's what you got to worry about. You're behind my back. Oh, my God. What are you going to do to me?
Yep.
Larry, thank you. Great to see you.
Okay. Great.
Right,
Bye-bye.
appreciate it.